Lord, have mercy. O Lord, grant us to greet the coming of the evening in peace. Help us in all things to rely upon your holy will. In every hour of the day, reveal your will to us. Give us strength to bear the fatigue of the day, and with all that it brings, direct our will. Teach us to pray. Pray yourself in us. Amen.
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 Well, thank you all for attending tonight. We are happy to have Diakonissa Alexandria Kalina. Diakonissa is a pediatrician. She is also on the council of the Chicago Metropolis. She is also co-chair of the Stewardship Committee at St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church in Minneapolis. She has been involved with the Strengthen Stewardship Now committee since its inception in 2020, and is also now currently part of the leadership team in the Strengthen Stewardship Now and Forever group. She also teaches 11th and 12th grade classes, religious classes at St. Mary's. So we are very happy to have Diakonissa to just give us just a very practical guide on just, being in the trenches and working at a church and how to approach some of working on the material so that it communicates with the parishioners. So Diakonissa, thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Myra. Thank you, Father Jim. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. The first thing I want to say is I want this to be so very interactive. You can shout out if you have a question and you're unmuted. You can put the question in the chat, and hopefully Owen and Myra can monitor that for me. This is not theoretical. This is just super hands-on. We are in the thick of it right now, coming up to stewardship season. And a lot of us have been doing this for a lot of years. Some of us are pretty new to this. And so for those of you that are very sophisticated, I'm sorry, this probably is going to be way under your level, but maybe you'll pick up a few tips or hear a few things that you maybe can use as a tweak. Or if you have suggestions for us instead of questions, please, we'd be happy to hear all of that from you as well. So this is just very hands-on. I'm going to walk you through how I make a stewardship packet for our parish, and I'm literally in the midst of it right now for 2023. And so actually what I'm showing you has not even been seen by our stewardship committee or our priest yet. But the ideas have been coming through our committee for a few months now. So here we go. Interrupt me anytime you want. I think most of you send out a stewardship packet somehow or get it to your parishioners. There are lots of ways to do it, lots of versions, different options of what to include in your packet. So it's really important to work with your stewardship committee and your priest if he's not on the stewardship committee, which they usually are, and talk about how you want to design and configure your packet. The Archdiocese has extensive materials on stewardship, including brochures, brochure material, sample clergy letters, the time and talent forms, which was looking over on the website today. They call it something else, commitment forms, I think. Financial commitment forms, banners, flyers, social media material, lots of different things. And if you weren't on when Father Jim was just speaking, the new materials will be coming up in, did you say, Father Jim, a couple of weeks, next week?
Actually, within days.
Yeah, for 2023. But if you go onto that site, which I've linked right here, if you go onto that site, you will find materials from the past 5 or 6 years. So I tell people, if you are, if you're really a go-getter and you like to do it early in the year, you could be on a cycle where your parish uses the stewardship materials from the previous year and get on that cycle, or you wait until it comes out through the Archdiocese. We have emailed, I know Father George has on my behalf before, emailed Father Jim to get at least the logo and the logo, which is usually ready earlier, so that we can start making our banner or use it on our own stewardship materials. And usually he's able to help us ahead of time if we need it. So very helpful at the Archdiocese. So the most important thing I want to talk about is the brochure, and then you guys can ask about it or share things that you do for your brochure. What I find is and so I'm sorry, this is a little bit, I don't know, how do I minimize? I want to make it so that I'm okay. I have to move everybody down so that I can see my whole screen here. No, that didn't work. Okay, so I'm sorry for the wordiness of this, but I actually want to take you through how I create our brochure. And what I have gotten it as input from people is that the brochure should be catchy. If it's really boring, they're not going to look at it. So I also feel like if you want to bring people in to the brochure and have them like look through it more than cursorily, you should personalize it. We do it for our parish in a few different ways. I often use the Archdiocesan text. I cut some things out and I add some things that are personalized, that's personalized text to involve our St. Mary's family. I use the words our St. Mary's family, at St. Mary's. I do some things to make it a little bit homier and to make it feel like we're one big family. And then in different parts of the text, I will talk about some things that are specific to St. Mary's, like our ministries, which may be different or called different things than maybe some other church parish ministries, our services, our family, really anything that makes the parish feel like home to people. And then I think they appreciate that. We collect photos from the previous 12 months since we published it. So from say like November till the following October, right? And we add those in the brochure, which our brochure is glossy and in color. And it includes events that maybe a lot of, so we had a food pack event. So someone took pictures on a chair of the room. So we use that. We'll use something from Pascha to show people in the maybe Good Friday procession. And then sometimes I'll have a couple of kids. I always ask if they're kids, I ask parents permission to use the kids photo. And then I usually use the logo and either the photo or the icon provided by the Archdiocese, because I feel like, number one, they went to a lot of trouble to create this beautiful logo for the year. And there's usually a lovely icon or photo that goes with it. So last year, there was a picture of a church on the logo, and I swapped it out last year and I put our church on it because that was my way of sort of personalizing it so that it was St. Mary's and not just an Orthodox church. So that's an example of something that I did that I don't normally do. I usually use the wording and the logo in toto. This year, though, I am trying something completely different. In a nod to our Metropolis theme of ownership, engagement, and generosity, I am building my materials around that. So I'm sure the Archdiocese materials are going to be beautiful, and it's not because they're not out yet that I didn't, use them. I just wanted to try something different. And then I thought I could also, it would give me a way to sort of emphasize with you guys knowing that I was presenting this month, it would give me an opportunity to emphasize again the things that the Metropolis is focusing on with regards to stewardship. So I'm creating all my own content this year. First time since we were in Scottsdale, which was 18 years ago, that I'm creating all my own content. Several people have told me that no one really reads all the verbiage in the brochures. I don't know if that's true or not. Our administrator told me that's not true, because people always come to him and tell him that we've made errors in spelling or grammar. So he said, I don't believe they don't read it, because they tell me everything that's wrong with it. So I'm doing something a little different this year. I am putting everything in bullet point form, and you'll see how I'm doing that. Our brochure is the same layout as it is previous years. And so those of you who lay out yourself or use an administrator to lay things out, the one thing I will say is we try to keep the layout exactly the same year to year to make it easiest on him. We keep the photos in the same position and all the text box in the same position, and we just swap them out, and then he makes the text fit the box, and we swap out the photos and we swap out the logo. So that keeps it really easy for him. I asked him today what he uses, just in case anybody was curious. He uses Adobe, and he uses Illustrator for the banner, and InDesign for all of the other materials, and then for the time and talent form, I think maybe it's Publisher. So he said you can buy that in either individually, or you can buy it in a bundle. And anyway, that's what he uses. And when I realized that I was going to do this differently anyway, I said, well, let's make our own logo this year. And so I said, can you send me some nice photos or anything you have of St. Mary's, the church? And he sent several photos, and then he sent this beautiful sketch that someone had done maybe 30, 40 years ago. And he said, I found this. What do you think of this? And our whole committee said that's it. So this is our logo for this year. So it's St. Mary's, and we're focusing on ownership, engagement, and generosity. And we have a new proistamenos, Father Tim Sass, and his thing is to get people to fill out pledge cards. We raise a lot of money at St. Mary's. We have a lot of donors who donate regularly, not like one-time donation. They've been giving for 25, 35, 45 years.
It looks beautiful.
They have never, thank you, Manu. They have never filled out a pledge form before. And so Father Tim said, I would really like to focus on getting people to actually fill out those pledge forms, since they give the money anyway. And also it helps them to make a commitment in writing, and it helps us for budgeting purposes. And then we get the time and talent forms. It forces people to fill out the time and talent portion as well. And we might get new people engaged in different ministries. We can reach out to them. So that's why at the bottom I have Commit to St. Mary's 2023. If you don't have the energy or resources to create your own materials, just use the Archdiocese brochure as it is. You can personalize it with your own photos. You can use their logo and their quote, or you can use a photo from your parish, however. But if the Archdiocese materials are beautiful, I'm not telling anyone not to use them. They work perfectly well. So if you don't have the time or energy, or you don't know how to personalize things, literally just print out that brochure and use that, or you can order it on Orthodox Marketplace. I think that's a little expensive. Everything is made to be downloaded for free. It's easy to download, so it's very easy to work with. I think David said when he orders the banners, we don't make them. He orders them, and well, we've done it both ways. And when he's ordered it, I think it automatically redirects you to, it did the couple of years he did it to someplace in like Los Angeles or whatever. These are large banners, right, Father Jim? They are like 2 by 4 feet or something. These are substantial. It takes three people to hang them.
Yeah, 3 by 6 and 4 by 8. But
yeah,
no, we do custom work too. So
yeah. So and please interrupt me anytime if I'm misspeaking about anything, or if you want to add anything that is available through the Archdiocese, please.
I love what you're saying. I just have to say, we make things to be turnkey, but our ideal is when someone does what you do, take our materials and customize them. That's the ideal. But we try to make it turnkey for parishes that don't have the skill set that you have.
And there's no like disclaimer that you have to credit the Archdiocese for these materials, but I always put something on the back of our brochure. So I always make a little disclaimer.
Thank you.
Here's what I've found to be most important about these brochures. They need to be eye-catching and warm, or people will pitch them, basically. You want people to read it, look at it, and feel inspired, right? I'm not a marketer. I'm not in advertising, but probably somebody who could give a better pitch for this than I could about why this is important. But there is like some psychology to making these, right? That you want people to you want people to feel good. When they feel good, they get more involved. When they get more involved, that's good for their soul, and it's also good for our budgets, you know. And do not be me. Don't be long-winded. People won't read the brochure. So I'm learning. You know, takes a long time to teach me, but I'm learning. So that said, here's just some. Now, this is not our brochure with our pictures in it or anything at all. This is just some of my content, my bullet point content that's going to go in. So everywhere in the brochure, not on every page, probably where I have the logo here, there's going to be different pictures, but we use the logo on everything. Father's letter, the time and talent form, the commitment form, all our quarterly statements, anything that goes out that talks about the stewardship for that year has the logo of the year and the photo or the icon, whatever it is. So, so bullet points under ownership. I don't have to go through all of them, but we're talking about own your relationship with Christ, own your life in the church, embrace St. Mary's. See, I'm making it personal by talking about St. Mary's. Engagement, engage with your spiritual family at St. Mary's. I think especially post-COVID, I do a lot of adolescent medicine. So what I'm seeing in clinic are a lot of anxious and depressed kids. Kids especially are meant to be run in packs. And there is so much isolation that they're having a hard time coming out of that, you know, post-COVID isolation feeling. And I think it's very similar for the elderly and for a lot of people, actually, anybody with mental health or people who struggle with loneliness or loss. So we've really been working for the last year and a half since we've been open for a long time, but we've really been working since people are starting to come back now on using family, home, you know, comfort zone, whatever you want to call it. We're really trying to make people feel like, come back to church. This is your home. We are your family. And it seems to be working, you know, pretty well. So we're trying to engage people in not just worship, but religious education, whether it's Bible study. We have classes online that are like Twin City, you know, throughout the Twin Cities, different priests give different they're like seeker classes or whatever you call those, but a lot of our Orthodox people do them, especially since they've been virtual and they're easy to get to because they're never in our parish. Engage in our ministries, engage with your prayer life. So we're really focusing on engagement. And then generosity. This is all I have right now, and I'll be sharing it with our team and Father Tim, and if people have other comments about generosity, throw them at me, put them in the chat box. But really, you know, we have talked, if you look on our website in the Metropolis, what Dimitri has done with that topic. So Dimitri Katzenbaris has been on our committee for 3 years, and he took this generosity piece really to the next level. And what he has shared with us about generosity is absolutely just beautiful beyond words. So I would encourage you to look at our materials on the Metropolis website, and there is a very large PowerPoint to help you navigate these three pillars of Orthodox life in the church and of stewardship. So for now, I just put these 2 bullet points. Everything we have is gifted from God. God loves a cheerful giver. And then I put 2 Bible quotes, and I may or may not do anything more. I might just leave that alone on its own page with a bunch of photos of lovely parishioners surrounding it. I might just leave that page to stand out on its own. And then in the back, we're going to talk about Commit to St. Mary's. That will probably be our last page, or the inside cover. And then the back page, maybe we'll just have the logo. Commit to filling out the time talent form for 2023. That's Father Tim's big thing. So guess what? The priest gets the first nod. So he gets top billing. His desire gets the top billing. Commit to filling out your time and talent and financial commitment form. Commit to coming to church on time. Commit to serving and volunteering monthly, yada, yada. So, and then a couple of more quotes. So that's basically my brochure. Does anybody have questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a question. How can I help volunteer at the church, and what time can I start working in a church?
So that's what you have to ask at your parish, right? That's for your parish. And so you're not in Minneapolis, right?
I'm in Alexandria.
In Alexandria, Minnesota, or Alexandria, Virginia?
Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay, right. So you have to, your job is to find out when you can volunteer there.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm sure there's
fine.
plenty of volunteer work for you there, Manu.
That would be nice.
Okay. Oops. So the clergy letter, this is very personal. We don't look at Father's letter. The first time I see it usually is when I'm stuffing envelopes. But some suggestions, and the Metropolis, the Archdiocese has a lot of, has a nice section on that too. It is, it just needs to be compelling spiritual message. So 3 things we've talked about in our parish. You can let people know how much they pledge. And then I need to talk about that for a second, because you can do this on the financial commitment form too. But there's something really important that I'm sure you've all thought about that I need to share about that. You can tell people how much they pledged last year, with the suggestion to consider increasing this by a certain amount, or you can ask them to consider a percentage of giving. It doesn't have to be a full 10% tithe. It could be consider a percentage of giving, or ask them generically if they might consider increasing their giving without personalizing the letter to show how much they gave previously. The caveat about all of this is, once you do that, you cannot use your stewardship committee to generically stuff your envelopes with this clergy letter, because that is privileged information. Because now if it's personalized, you can't have your 10 people on your stewardship committee see how much, Yanni gave last year. So we decided not to do this. Father Tim decided not to do this year, but we had decided if he was going to do it, the administrator who collects the pledges, who sends out the quarterly statements, the one who sees what everybody gives, he had agreed that he would pre-stuff an envelope, like a letter size envelope with this letter, give them all to us, and then we would stuff the envelopes into the final mailing. So it really makes, if you do that, anywhere on the time and on the financial commitment form or in the priest letter, it adds a much bigger, if you have a big parish, right? We send out 600 or 700 of these. If you're sending out 50 of these, it's not as big of a deal. But if you're sending out hundreds of these that now all of a sudden have to be hidden, the amount has to be hidden. It adds a big, it adds another step. It can be done. It just adds another step. So we call it a time and talent form. We learned that it only works if it's used. We found out that for a number of years, our time and talent forms went into the office into a basket and sat there every year, all year. So anybody that signed up on their own to be contacted didn't get contacted. And then we've discovered that 2 years ago, and now a member of our committee collects the forms from the office every month because they do flow through the year, you know, and emails the ministry heads with the list of the people along with their contact information who have volunteered for their respective ministry. I would suggest being very thoughtful when creating your time and talent forms. Include, and this is one where you can certainly use the Archdiocese material for like the format, but you don't want to use their positions because they don't look when I just looked at it today, and a lot of the stuff doesn't look anything like what the ministries we have. We have different names and we have fewer of some, we don't have some of these, but we have different ones of these. So I would say include all your ministry heads. We do this like every 3 years. We send them the previous form and we say what positions they would like included, what new lines would they like, include as many positions as possible with keeping the font something that even a 75 or 80-year-old person can read, of course. Also ask the office staff. I sent our new form to one of the office staff today. We thought it was pretty much done because we sent around 5 or 6 iterations of it to each other. She sent me back 8 comments that were like very important. Like some of them were misspellings. Others were, I really think you should combine these two. Have you thought about changing the wording here? It was really great. And I was like, wow, this is why you send it to a lot of people. We tweak our forms every 2 to 3 years. And then these discussions can go on for weeks before we settle on a form. Oops, what's the last one? Oh yeah. And then I highlighted again, when you receive the forms, give them to the ministry heads so they can reach out. Honestly, when we started doing that, I probably have heard each year, I have heard from more than 4 or 5 people each year who have said, wow, I got an email. I signed up to do blah, blah, blah. I got an email from someone welcoming me. That didn't happen before. And I've signed up every year. So it works when you use it.
Diakonissa, there is a question in the chat from Julie. The question is, generally, has anyone seen a significant difference in giving by indicating a steward's previous stewardship donation? Has anyone tried that? I know in our church we have not. We've asked people to increase by suggesting, 10% from what they gave last year, but don't tell them what they actually pledged the year before. Is anyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. From our perspective, what I hear more is people don't remember what they pledged the year before. Now we can argue, well, we send you 4 quarterly statements, and on the quarterly statement, it says what you pledged, how much you've given, and how much you have left to give. So, I could argue we tell people 4 times a year outside of their initial stewardship. And I think that's why the committee, I was traveling that night. I wasn't at the meeting, but I think that's what they decided was we tell them 4 times a year. So some people wanted it in the initial mailing to remind them what they gave last year, but I can't speak to whether it helps to increase the giving or not. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know it's a difficult question to answer, but just something on our minds.
If I do some investigating and come up with anyone, I'll send it off to the Metropolis and they can send out an email to the group and say, and with an answer. Yeah, that's a great, I mean, there are definitely other ways that you can raise levels of giving. And honestly, if that's what your parish is trying to do, I have no idea if that's why you're asking this question, but if your idea, we all want to increase levels of giving, right? That's why we have these meetings, and that's not what my job is tonight, but I will refer you to our incredible PowerPoint and our incredible materials on the Metropolis site and the Archdiocese site, because a lot of what is on our Metropolis site, we've done a lot of investigating into the nuts and bolts of what goes behind the psychology of, giving, what's important to people, what makes people feel better about giving. And so some of that might be helpful, and lots of personal interaction is the other thing I would say. When I get a few slides down, I'll tell you something that we have done before. And I think Deacon Paul and I presented on this, but I'll just remind you that if you really want to kickstart stuff and you can do this and you have a small enough parish, it might be very helpful too. So we keep the financial commitment form very simple, and the Archdiocese one is extremely simple. I think if you use the Archdiocese one, they only say you're going to give this much per week. We give options of weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. I think they felt, this was way before my time, that it helped with budget planning if they know how people are going to give. The bottom line is, if they don't fill these out, this is what we've learned. If they don't fill these out, nothing helps with budget planning. You can personalize it. So this is the other place where you can personalize the form, so they know how much they gave last year. Again, we don't do this so that we don't have to have an extra step. And then if you provide a return envelope pre-stamped, it's a bonus. I don't think we do that, but if you have if you can do that in your parish, I know that encourages me to send things in quickly if I have a pre-stamped envelope to return something. So this is what ours looks like currently, our new iteration. It's not done because we haven't put the new logo on it, and after the comments we got. But this year we did it on one form, and the Archdiocese form is one. We normally put two things in there, a time and talent form and a financial pledge form. And this year we decided to do one with you can see that perforation, and I don't know if it'll be an actual perforation or if it's just going to be dotted lines. And then our administrator will cut off the financial part and then hand the time and talent pledge part to our stewardship, our liaison who's collecting these. Any questions on this? Father Tim's comment was, I would like the time and talent to be on the top and the financial on the bottom, because we really want to focus on committing to being involved just as much as we want them to be committed to giving their money. So I sent that off to our administrator. He's going to flip it around for us tomorrow. So once you've prepared the materials, what comes next? Well, the printing. When we were in Scottsdale, our parish was very small before the church was built. Deacon Paul and I were kind of the stewardship people. We didn't really have a stewardship team. He was parish council president. I was his secretary. And so we formatted, and this is the early years of the computer, I might say. We formatted it and printed everything ourselves. But now most people, we send it out. You don't have to send it out. I asked David, why do we send it out? And he said, well, we can do end-to-end color printing. We don't have the ability to do glossy. It's not hugely expensive. And for the additional expense, it's very warm looking. So that's why we print our own. Then you have to time your campaign. Is it going to be early in the fall, late in the fall, or early in the winter? For now, we've settled on mid-November. And then you have to stuff the mailers, right? You have to have a stuffing party. And then you have to decide, how are you going to distribute it? Do you distribute it at church for people who are there and then mail the rest? Do you mail to everybody, or do you do it door to door? And this is where I wanted to just make a comment. If you're really trying to aggressively increase your finances and your engagement, I've done door to door at 2 different parishes, a 75 family parish and a 500 family parish. It is not sustainable long-term. We did it 2 years in a row at both of these parishes, and then people run out of steam. You don't really need to do it long-term. You can't do it long-term, but you don't really need to. It is a great way to jumpstart parish expansion or increased giving, increased engagement. Anybody who wants to know more about that, we can talk offline. We called it the Ark of the Covenant program, and we used teams of like 5 to 10 and a captain, and we went house to house, door to door. Yep. The other thing is make sure all of your materials are available and easy visible and accessed on your website and on social media. If you can't link to for them to print out stuff, or, some parishes, you can't fill out stewardship commitment forms and all that online. We just went from an old system to a new, bad, expensive system. And we finally just moved to Realm, which I think is going to be fabulous. So I don't really know what Realm can do in this regard, but I guess we'll find out probably next year. So then there are other components to your whole campaign. Clergy sermons are really important, and parishioner testimonials, huge. We get testimonials from, our youngest was 12 and our oldest was 90. We do 3 consecutive Sundays, the sermon, and then the sermon at the regular sermon time, and then the testimonial at the end before the dismissal. So it's 2, you get the double hit 3 weeks in a row.
Just that you made a great point. The people are afraid to talk about money, but if they just talk about, I remember what St. Mary's means to me when they get up and talk about what the church means to them. And that's what I learned from St. Mary's, is those are the most moving. People don't need to be told that we need more money, but if they know that the church is touching people and this is so important to them. So because getting people to get up and talk, it's hard. But if you just say what the church means to you, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, so we spend literally, sometimes we have to spend months. We start in probably February or March to approach people, to get 3 people, to get 3 good people, and not the same people, to speak in November. People want to think about it, and then we get a bunch of no's, and then we get a yes, and then we get some no's, then we get another yes, and we have to get to 3 yeses. I don't ever hear them because I teach church school, so we leave after communion. But what I heard from people in our parish and our stewardship committee is the most compelling speaker was a 13-year-old. I heard he was absolutely amazing. And that's the most I've ever heard anyone talk about any. So go to the kids too. He had a lot of things to say. He also is a very good orator, and I think got second at the Metropolis for his St. John Chrysostom. So he's a very good orator. But he's such a sincere kid. We were very, very thoughtful about who we choose to speak. So yeah. And then, just a word about, because I want to leave, it's 7:42. I want to leave a bunch of time either to talk or we can go home early, whatever. Stewardship Sunday means, almost everybody has something like this. Most people call it that. Some people call it different thing. It's really important to have, but it means something different to everybody and to different parishes. So we have kind of like we have had for the past 5 years, like a stewardship kind of weekend, and it's our kickoff. So on the Saturday before the Nativity Fast begins, so this year I think Saturday is the 12th. Occasionally it has fallen on the 15th because we couldn't do it the 8th or whatever, but usually we get it in before the fast. So we have a lot of meat, and we have it on a Saturday night. It's free. We bill it as appreciation for anything anybody has done for the parish, whether you've given $1, volunteered for an hour at the festival, anything. But really, we don't check at the door. Did you do something? What did you do? Are you a steward? They don't have to be stewards. They don't have to have given a penny. If they come to church, we're happy. We count that as, okay, we appreciate you. You came to church. So it's free. And some years it's cost us a lot of money. This year we had lamb left over from the festival. So we got it at a good price from the festival committee. And so some years it's a lot cheaper. We usually have people that, donate wine. And I go around, I pour everybody wine during dinner, because then it makes me say hello to everyone and talk to them. And we don't ask for money. We make a little tiny speech about stewardship, very short. All the things, a couple things we did during the year, how much we appreciate everyone, how we're such a great family. It's really a celebration of family. And then at the end, I'm like, but we won't turn your money away. If you want to give us a lot of money in your stewardship packet, we'd love that. I kind of make a joke out of it. Traditionally, we have never handed out our stewardship then. The next day is our ministry fair, and it's kind of like our Stewardship Sunday, but we never handed out stewardship packets then either. That's the first day of our speeches, of our sermons and our testimonials. And then the next week we would stuff our packets. So now we're mid-November, stuff our packets and mail them. So that's how we do it. Some parishes have a luncheon or a dinner when they're ready to collect the pledges in December or January, or after they've collected the pledges. Sometimes they have it. I've heard parishes where they pass the baskets to they make a kind of a ceremony of it, pass the baskets, put your pledge in here, then come to lunch afterwards. Others where parish council and the stewardship committee comes down the center aisle at the beginning and puts their pledges in there. Everybody does a little bit differently. I was going to say one thing about that. So this year we're doing it a little different. We are handing out packets at the Glendy and on Stewardship Sunday. I just thought it would save us on postage, frankly. So that's my goal. We aren't going to ask for their money, but we are probably going to have our banner up. We're probably going to unveil our banner that night and hand out packets, and then again on Sunday. And then I believe that I don't remember what they decided on, actually, because I was away for a couple of weeks. I think they decided that they're actually going to wait for the speakers for about 2 weeks later, and then parish council and stewardship committee is going to hand in their packets in a kind of a ceremonial way at the end. And then that will start our 3 weeks of stewardship sermons. Oops, sorry. So my last couple of thoughts are: make the stewardship message visible and easily accessed electronically. Banners, flyers, with a website, social media, weekly and monthly bulletins. I don't think you should spam people. It shouldn't be every week an email and in the bulletin every week. Turn in your pledge form, turn in your pledge form. We do it maybe monthly, maybe when we think we're getting a little behind, we throw something in the weekly bulletin. Otherwise there's a little message always in the monthly messenger. Email blasts when you need to, and text. So a bunch of young adults have told me recently, we don't read any emails. We only look at texts. So I'm trying to push our parish to do more of texting, figuring out creative ways to reach people by text, because that's what the young people read. And then follow up. We send, I think I mentioned, we send quarterly statements. We send monthly reminders in our messenger. We have a visual in the narthex, usually from October till December, using a thermometer, because we're always a little behind. I'm sure you've never been behind in your parish ever in October and November. So I'm sure we're the only ones that are behind in October and November. So we bring out the thermometer And it really, really works. It really does work. And then we start to get a little more aggressive with our messaging in November if we're pretty far behind. Don't forget about newcomers through the year. If you have a newcomer committee, ours always hands out a packet. But during Holy Week, we usually reserve some packets and we put them out on the table where you get your lambada to go into church Friday and Saturday, and people can still pick those up. You could print a list of stewards in your monthly messenger, and we have never done that before, but I am really challenging us to do it this year. I really want to do it in 2023. And I only want to include the people who have filled out a pledge card. And since that's so important to Father Tim, I thought, well, that's a great way when they see that, their friend Yorgo has filled out a card, but I haven't, or they're in there and why aren't I? So maybe that will get them to fill out a card. Gentle reminders, but I don't think we've decided. Remind people of the many ways to give. Every week in our bulletin, I meant to bring one so I could just hold it up and show you. At the bottom of our inside page, we have the number to text to give, and we have a QR code, so you can Venmo right there from the narthex when you get your bulletin. And that's what the young adults do. They text to give and they Venmo. And just a quick note about thank you notes. We have been terrible about them. We've only done them mostly for our higher end donors. That's a terrible thing to do. And we're going to send thank you notes to everyone from now on. They don't have to be handwritten. They should be hand signed. So if you have a little committee, a group in your committee, to just sign them on a postcard or a pre-printed letter. They can personalize the letter. Even if they don't personalize the letter, if there's a handwritten signature, that's very, very helpful and appreciated. And I think that is, if you look at our packet on the Metropolis, I think that's emphasized quite a bit. And yeah, that's the end of my slides. So.
Thank you, Diakonissa. That is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, if there are questions, feel free to write a question on chat. And I think we may also be able, if you would like to.
I have another.
Sorry.
Or comments, or if you have comments or suggestions for people, things that have worked well for your parish.
I have a nice comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
It's been really wonderful. Learning about new skills and making like nice thank you cards to everybody.
Well, I'm glad, Manu.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
I just wanted to suggest something that Stewardship Sunday, if you're looking for the prayer or an outline of how to do it, if you don't know where to start, the handbook that we put online has some helpful things. People often call me and say, is there a prayer for the pledge cards? So when some parishes have a real big day where they collect the pledge cards and baskets and they bring them up to the altar and they pray over them, there's a prayer in the book. There's a whole page or two on a Stewardship Sunday if you're kind of at a loss of what to do. I know St. Mary's has a tradition of how they handle that, but if you don't and you want to try something, there's an outline there. That's all on our website. So.
Thank you, Father.
We do have another question on the chat. Great presentation. Has anyone used the strategy of giving parishioners a cost per day to operate the parish or suggested giving amounts? Anyone? If you can, the reactions, if you go to the reactions, I believe you can raise hands or Alex, if you want to stop the, if you can click down the screen.
Oops, what did I do?
Yeah, then we can see everybody.
Okay, I'm trying to stop share. Okay,
yes.
Done.
Okay.
How do I make that go away?
Good question.
stop share. I'm afraid I'm gonna like get myself out of the whole Zoom.
Actually, I think we have Joyce's.
I don't know.
We have Joyce's screen up there now. Joyce, I think you.
Can you still see my view if I stop the share, or is it only I who can see it?
No, we can see. Oh,
it says we're seeing
the
Joyce's.
background.
This is Joyce's. Joyce, could you take a look at your screen, Joyce Muffaletto? It says at the top, we're viewing Joyce Muffaletto's screen, right? There we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we
go.
go.
Great, then we can see each other. If you'd like to raise your hand like this or on the chat or go down to reactions and raise your hand, feel free. And there's Dimitri. Dimitri?
I guess, Diakonissa, I'd like to get a better sense of St. Mary's Stewardship Program. I believe, at least in my mind, it's a very successful program. I hope you agree with that. And I was wondering if you can share with the group how many people you reach, what the goals are. You say you use a thermometer, so you must have some kind of a goals. What are you trying to do with stewardship, basically? If you can share some of those numbers or quantify somehow your program for us to put everything in context. So with all these efforts you're doing, how good are you doing?
So last year so our goal for stewardship is to cover our entire budget, and then all the other fundraisers we have, including the festival, which does very well. We give a lot of that away, or we put it in our foundation, but we do not use that money for stewardship. And so during COVID, it was, we were fine because we don't rely on any of that money. Last year, we raised $1.1 million. And we have 500 donors. We only had 190 people fill out pledge cards, and our average pledge was $2,400. But if you look at our median pledge, which those of you who have been doing this long enough know that's more indicative of the giving of your entire parish, our average pledge was still under $1,000. So we have some very big givers, and most of those really big givers never fill out a pledge card because their really big giving changes year to year. They don't want anyone to see how much they're giving, and they tend to give at the end of the year. So feel like we are literally coming in on fumes, and then we always do, we do pretty well. Now, I don't see what anybody gives, so I can't tell you anything about the pattern of does the big gift come from the same person? Does it come on December 30th? Does it come to just make up for what we don't have? I can't speak to that, but we do pretty well throughout the year, but our budget is big. Our budget is big. And so we have to raise a lot of money. We have done this before. It was before my time, how much it costs to put the lights on. Sometimes we put that information in like once or twice a year. We'll put all that little information in one of our monthly messengers so people can understand. We have focused a lot. It's been my thing. Don't ask for money, ask for people's hearts. So we've done a lot of that over the years. And it's worked really, really well for us. I'm kind of coming full circle back to the place where, okay, now we should talk again a little bit more about, this is an expensive parish, and here are the things we're trying to do. So I don't know if that's helpful, Dimitri.
No, I think, thanks. I mean, it puts some perspective of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So, and everything you do, have you changed that over the years, or pretty much? I mean, obviously you're pushing to have more commitment cards in the beginning.
Yeah. So when I started about 7 years on the stewardship committee, the previous chairs had been focusing more on giving your fair share and giving this money. It was like all the presentations were about giving money. And I said, I will only join if I don't want to ask for money. I want to get people involved, because what we found in Scottsdale, so we started in that parish with 70 families in an old house that someone donated. And now they have 400 families and a $5 million campus. And their median gift is $2,500, about that. And the way we did it then was we just made it a family. And then people just were like, how much do you need? So we built we built a $1.5 million church with 100 families contributing like 1 million. And we had a $500,000 mortgage, something like that. So we got $1 million from 100 families by just talking about the love of Christ. And we didn't actually ask them for money. We did the door to door, and we just got to know people. So my perspective is getting people involved, especially young people. They want to make a difference. They want a voice at the table. They want you to invite them to be on committees. They're actually big donors. They're looking for they're looking for places to put their money. The young people, social justice causes are very important to them. And the church is the social justice cause, right? For them. So and that's why we went to Venmo. I haven't checked lately, but we having like every month when we ask, how's Venmo? It's more and more and more people, more and more young people, more and more money. So I came from a different perspective where I really wanted to talk more about like the love of Christ and be part of the family. We had more programs. We started parish night. We started Koinonia. We started men's fellowship. We started women's book club. I think the more things we have started, the more money we have gotten. Does that make sense? And the Glendy, wow. We started with 100. Our last Glendy was 370. And it's people just we had to kick people out at midnight. We had to tell 90-year-old people to go home at midnight because they did not, it says till 11, but we were kicking people out at close to midnight. Because people just really had a good time, and there's no what am I looking for? There's no ulterior motive, right? Just come and be a family and have fun. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
And that conveniently comes right before they get their pledge cards. So that is by design. That is definitely by design. Yeah.
No, that's great. Going back to Alan's question with regard to whether or not providing the cost per day, whether or not anyone has had any experience with that. Has anyone else here?
Could I speak to that? That's
yes.
Something that's catching on around the country. The Cathedral in New York does that. Some of the Westchester parishes in New York are doing that. It's a kind of a slippery slope. I know that it works to a certain extent, but it smells a little bit like dues. So you got to be careful that you're not going back and just dividing up the expenses and having people pay their share. So you have to be really careful implementing that. My first response was it looks like dues. I really like what Diakonissa is saying. Engage the people in the life of the church and the money will follow. If we go straight to their pockets, you'll get some money, but they won't give with their hearts. When you get them engaged in the life of the church, so that, like I said, when the kids stand up and tell how much they love the church, that affects everyone. And we realize what the church means to us. If you've ever been in a situation where your church is in trouble or it's not going well and you're going to lose this place, you realize how much you love this church, and you don't understand because it's not logical. It's emotional. It's so important to you. So I think people have to feel that and feel how much they love their church, and the rest follows. So I really think St. Mary's is on track with the focus on engagement.
And I think you say something very, very important and very psychological, if I may say. Giving is emotional. It's really not rational. Like giving a certain amount maybe is rational, but opening your wallet is emotional. Does that make sense? Like you pay your bill, that's rational. I have to pay my bill to keep my lights on. When they told us we had dues, I have to pay these dues to be able to, have my child get married. right? Or whatever. But that's the rational part. But the emotional part is how much above and beyond will you give? That's the emotional part. And I think that's when stewardship really takes off, when you tug at people's heartstrings, you know. And I think COVID tugged at a lot of people's heartstrings. And so people gave a lot. Now we have an inflation. It's a tough year. We're having a tougher year. I don't know if you all are. We're I think more behind this year than we have been the last few years. So
if you look at our handbook, though, our handbook, the first 5 to 7 pages are about engaging people in the life of the church. It's giving because that's the first place a new stewardship chair will go, hopefully, to the handbook. You can download it or just read it online. And it really helps you to orient yourself, because your first impulse is, how much are they going to give and how do I ask for money? And I hate asking for money. But if you read that, it brings your blood pressure down and makes you realize you're leading a ministry, not a fundraising campaign. And it's much easier to talk to people about engaging in the life of the church than asking them to give money, you know, directly, because that's going backwards. Like I said, going straight to their pockets is not the way to do stewardship.
I mean, there's nothing to say during the year you can't do, like we have done this during the year in one of your monthly, you know, mailings, where you can't put a half a page about, did you know? That's what we call it. We call it the did you know section of our little stewardship thing. And sometimes it's about a person. Did you know that so-and-so bakes X number of loaves of prospero every year, you know? But sometimes it's about, you know, did you know some kind of fun fact, we burn X number of candles a year. But sometimes is, did you know that it costs blah, 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 and we'll list, you know, this much for snow plowing, this much for groundskeeping, this much for lighting, this much for, yeah. So there's, I mean, you can do it. You don't have to make it your stewardship campaign, but there are ways to throw it out there to remind people, oh yeah, we do have a lot of, you know, we do have a lot of bills.
Owen?
To piggyback on what Father was saying, in talking about the various costs, smacking of dues, it also smacks of coming from a sense of scarcity as opposed to a place of abundance. And all of the studies on philanthropy indicate that people want to hear that who they're giving money to, they're coming from a place of abundance. We have things. One of the great myths of the United States may be that we love an underdog. No, we don't. We love winners. So you have to be a winner. And no matter what your parish's circumstances are, you have things to offer, not only to your parish, your congregation, but to your community. And that's what you play up. And that gets people engaged. And as Alex and Father both said, once engaged, they will give.
I tell people, think about your family. Everybody has, I don't have siblings, so I have cousins. So I use the example of cousins, but everybody's got like a favorite cousin, right? And so if you have a favorite cousin or favorite 2 cousins, think about when it's their birthday or when it's Christmas. This is me anyway. I always get them something really, really nice. And why is that? Well, they check in on me. They care, you know, they're always calling me. They want to see me. We have a very close relationship. I don't buy them something nice because they're more poor or less poor than another cousin. And it's not, do you know what I mean? Like it's a total emotional feeling. I get them a bigger gift or a gift where I don't give my other cousins a gift. I get them a gift because somehow we have made a really special connection to each other. And they give to me, and I can't wait to give back to them. And so I feel like it's kind of the same with the church. You know, if they feel like the church gives to them, like gives them love and a family and something to look forward to, and they feel very connected, they feel loved by the church, they're going to love the church back in many ways, right? By attendance, by engagement, but also by their generosity. So.
Indeed. Also, Father Jim just posted the link for stewardshipgoarch.org for material and information on the e-list to receive updates and resources. So feel free to do that. Thank you, Father Jim.
Thanks.
We are now at 8:09 in Chicago, 9:09 on the East Coast. Any other questions at this time?
I just want to say thank you. This was really informative and really helpful.
Great, Julie.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Where are you from? What parish?
I'm on the stewardship committee chair at Saints Peter and Paul in Glenview, the north suburbs of Chicago.
Lovely.
So where Father Rick is there or no?
Yes,
Okay.
with Father Rick.
You guys are on
Wonderful.
top of your stewardship, I know. I'm sure.
We're doing okay, but we have some big capital expenses coming up. So I'm trying to find ways of engaging the community so that they feel more connected and ultimately start giving. And I've been using the platform of social media to make people more aware of ministries and different activities and make them feel like the community is coming back together post-COVID, but it's a long road. So.
Can I just say, keep the department in mind, all of you who are involved, and tell your friends that are working in stewardship, we're here to help you. It's not just stuff that's online. We answer the phone, we answer emails. Emails are the best because we can answer them day or night. But let us know how we can support your work. And if you're not seeing what you need, contact us and we'll do our best to get it to you. We have 10 to 12 years worth of resources that have not gone out of date. So if you're trying to educate throughout the year, go back to previous years and use the materials to fill your bulletins with information.
Thank you, Father. And thank you to everyone. Next week, not next week, but next month, our speaker is going to be, if I can get this right, Dr. Andrew Galeras. He is the author of Money and Salvation, an invitation to the good way. And so we are looking forward to that presentation next month. I hope that all of you can join us. And with that, Father Jim, if you can lead us in prayer, in closing prayer once again, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Through the prayers of our Holy Fathers, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us. Amen.
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 Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah.
Reach out if you